I think it started like everybody. It's just always starts with understanding yourself, right? So mine started by feeling odd and feeling not left out. I was definitely in the like know and around people, and I got along very well with my classmates, but at least inside, I felt like I didn't belong, and I had different values, maybe or different personality traits than some of my peers, and so I started researching that and figuring that stuff out like at an early age. And I did that throughout college until I started figuring out that there are flaws in some of the systems that I was learning about. And I started to create my own. And when I started my own education company, I was able to use that and apply that methodology and evolve that methodology to a point where it could be useful in helping other people grow. It's funny. I think it's what they were paying attention to in terms of I thought they were prioritizing something. It's almost like if you're playing sports and you're like, oh, okay, like there's too many 3 point shots. People are over prioritizing that. Like the same thing. I think people prioritize what they can see, which kind of makes sense because it's easier to evaluate that. It's very concrete. It's very like, oh, this person talks a lot, this person's loud, or this person is reserved or shy. And that's something very easy to see and catalog, but that's not necessarily what defines that person. And so I started trying to develop a system that did not necessarily focus on the things that people did, but more so the reasons why they did it. I understood absolutely nothing. I think at a subconscious level, I try to always look at people differently, or I guess I did try since it was subconscious, but I always tried to understand people when I was young. I think came from something that my father once said, where a lot of people assumed something about one of our family members, and so she wasn't particularly the most popular person in the family. And my dad was like, like yes, she does have some of those traits, but the reason why she's like that is really because she's like this, and that's something you should appreciate. And so I think that's kind of where I started, which is like not really knowing anything exactly about personality types, but having that feeling of trying to understand people better and wanting to understand people better. I think the introversion extroversion thing really was something that I felt was important just because it's something that you just read about. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess everyone's talking about this, then it must be important. And one of the like I learned about MBTI first, or actually David Keirsey first, who uses MBTI a bit and evolved it. And introversion, extroversion, that dichotomy was an important feature of his methodology as well. It wasn't as important as it is sometimes with function types. But yeah, I think introversion, extroversion, that was kind of my introduction to it. And I started realizing maybe that's not necessarily the best way to. I think it was just the desire to understand myself better. I had mentioned introversion, extroversion because I used to think I was one way. I used to think I was in the beginning, I thought I was extroverted, and then I thought I was introverted, and now I'm realizing, okay, like none of that even matters anymore. It was just because I couldn't understand why in certain situations I would be very outgoing and very talkative, and other situations I would just totally clam up and just be disinterested. And that's when I started realizing, it isn't really about who's more talkative and who's more reserved. It's about what they value, what do they like, what situations they feel are important in their lives, because if they are important or they feel like those things are important, then of course they're going to be more outgoing and they're going to be more assertive. And obviously, the flip side is if they don't really care, then they're just going to climb up. So I think that's one thing that I really started to develop.